Taking
I'll
pictures
relive
of just
it.
themselves.
Turn on the television, girl.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
I'm leaving y'all.
The sky was still a deep charcoal gray when a convoy of ominous black SUVs rumbled down a quiet residential street. No one could recall seeing vehicles like these around Whoopi Goldberg's usually tranquil neighborhood. Yet here they were, creeping past manicured lawns and garden lights, heading straight for the ivy-draped gates of her famed mansion. The sudden blare of floodlights snapped the silence. Within seconds, dark-suited individuals were streaming out of the cars, fanning across the property with a precision that felt more like a covert operation than a polite visit. Doors rattled under a series of firm knocks that echoed through the dawn air.
That man had something to say to me.
Oh.
He saw a meme. You know who? Saw a meme that said I was leaving the country.
Neighbors, startled from sleep, clustered behind windows or peered anxiously from porches. Few had ever seen such a forceful presence in this normally serene corner of Los Angeles. Moments later, the grand wooden door swung open, revealing a bewildered but composed Whoopi Goldberg in a plush robe. Even half awake, she radiated the poise audiences knew her for, yet none had ever seen her in such a vulnerable situation. In a clipped, formal tone, the lead agent flashed an FBI badge and announced a search warrant. The legal papers, crisp and undeniably official, left no room for debate. Almost immediately, a swarm of agents flooded the foyer, branching off like rivulets through hallways and into private rooms.
What's
I
that?
have to stop you with the camera because I can see you. So do me a favor, don't pull it out again.
Onlookers outside couldn't catch more than fleeting glimpses, the flash of a shield, the glint of standard-issue firearms, and Whoopi's concerned face retreating into the gilded corridors. Inside, the mansion felt suddenly claustrophobic. Agents tugged open drawers, lifted rugs, and scanned shelves stacked with old movie scripts and personal letters. Despite the tension, Whoopi stayed calm, watchful, yet strangely collected. She offered no protest and only nodded when asked if she wanted to call her attorney. Beyond that, her silence was as striking as the thoroughness of the agent's search. One group focused on a room that appeared to be a private office. Photos from film sets covered the walls, marking decades of an illustrious career. Scripts, awards, and clippings were strewn across a heavy wooden desk.
Wednesday, Whoopi Goldberg also lashed out.
Help us understand who you are as police officers so we can help you do your job and we don't feel like you hunting us. Because that's what it feels like sometimes, and I hate that.
Testifying to a lifetime in the public eye. Suddenly, someone in the basement shouted for backup. In no time, a stream of footsteps thundered down the old wooden staircase. With flashlights flickering across cobweb corners, they discovered something no one expected, a hidden alcove, its entrance barely noticeable amid the stone foundation. The tension in the air spiked as an agent carefully nudged a latch that prompted a grinding sound. Within moments, part of the wall pivoted, revealing a narrow passage. Dust swirled, and the beam of a flashlight revealed crates stacked in a cramped, secret chamber. The largest crate was metal, sealed with a lock that seemed outdated but solid. When an agent tried to open it on site, the lock held firm. Caution took priority. They loaded the crate into a specially outfitted SUV for later examination.
I appreciate that people are having a hard time. Me too.
Yeah.
I work for a living. If I had all the money in the world, I would not be here.
In an FBI lab, Whoopi, watching from the bottom of the stairs, shook her head slowly. She claimed she had never seen that crate before, her voice echoing off the cold walls. Outside, the dull roar of cameras greeted the emerging agents. News vans had started arriving, capturing the surreal scene for a public that would wake up to sensational headlines. By early morning, the raid ended. Whoopi, standing at her front door, watched the tail lights of the FBI convoy fade down the street. No explanation was offered, not a word beyond the formalities. Social media lit up within minutes. Videos of dark SUVs, stills of Whoopi's troubled expression.
ABC has now announced that Whoopi Goldberg has been suspended for 2 weeks from The View.
And countless theories about what the FBI could possibly be after. While the public clamored for answers, the agents who had seized boxes of documents were busy sifting through them in a top-secret facility. Rumors started flowing. Perhaps it was a financial crime, an undisclosed scandal, or something far darker. Those whisperings multiplied exponentially after a news leak hinted that an unopened VHS tape was found among old letters and partially burned files in that hidden basement chamber. No details accompanied the rumor, just one explosive question. Why would Whoopi Goldberg, a beloved Hollywood icon, keep a secret stash of documents and an ancient videotape locked away in a hidden vault?
Whoopi Goldberg stopping The View mid-show.
And as you are stunned, so are we.
It all went down during Hot Topics as Whoopi's co-host Sunny Hostin discussed Donald Trump's ongoing legal issue.
In the days that followed, the usual talk shows, gossip columns, and Twitter feeds buzzed with speculation. Some fans dismissed the raid as a government overreach, insisting that the FBI had made a mistake. Others leapt to conspiracies about government stings or hidden Hollywood puppet masters. Meanwhile, the mainstream media tried to glean facts. Was there a sealed indictment? Had Whoopi been under surveillance for months? How serious was this investigation? The answer, it seemed, was complicated. Insiders murmured that the FBI had been gathering intelligence for quite some time. Agents do not barge into a celebrity's home without firm leads.
Even was sending suggestions for people to take my place. Look, I'm not going anywhere.
That fact alone fueled suspicions. Could Whoopi Goldberg really have done something so serious that federal authorities must act under cover of darkness? Or was she simply an unwitting keeper of secrets someone else wanted buried? Law enforcement experts weighed in. They pointed out that the presence of armed agents usually implies a high-risk operation. This wasn't a polite request to see some tax returns. More likely, it was connected to a larger puzzle, one that possibly involved big industry players or hush-hush Hollywood dealings. Then again, rumors ran rampant. Some pinned the blame on possible blackmail attempts in the film world. Others believed the star might have collected damaging evidence on powerful people. Whoopi's decades of experience in Hollywood were well known. She had faced controversies on The View and elsewhere, but never anything this tangible.
The veteran TV host doesn't hold back during the July 18th episode of The View when discussing the Miranda Lambert concert drama.
Where is them?
If they paid money for the tickets, they came to see her.
People had always either loved or loathed her outspokenness, but an FBI raid crossed a line no one expected. Within 72 hours of the initial search, entire Reddit threads were devoted to dissecting her personal history, from her earliest stand-up gigs to her most recent statements. Twitter exploded with hashtags like #WhoopiRaid, #SecretBasement, and #HiddenTruth. And then came the moment that ignited a media firestorm. New leaks from anonymous sources close to the investigation. Whispers of a particular letter surfaced, an aged document sealed with red wax and emblazoned with a curious emblem. If rumors held any truth, the letter referenced an unsolved scandal from Hollywood's golden years. Various names circulated, including an elusive producer rumored to have vanished under suspicious circumstances decades ago. The mere suggestion of a tie between Whoopi and a shadowy, never-resolved case from Tinseltown's past turned a bizarre story into a full-blown phenomenon. A wave of panicked commentary erupted among her professional circle. A major film project she was attached to suddenly went on hiatus. Budget review was the official excuse, but few believed that. Sponsors associated with her philanthropic endeavors expressed concern, quietly and politely distancing themselves until the FBI situation became clearer. Even at The View, producers scrambled for damage control. Though Whoopi remained co-host, her typical banter grew tense. Audience members noticed how her fellow panelists chose words more carefully, as though tiptoeing around a live wire. When Whoopi finally appeared on a primetime interview to address the matter, the entire country tuned in. She walked onto the stage with that signature confidence, took a seat, and looked directly into the camera. With a measured voice, she recounted the fright of finding federal agents in her living room at 5 in the morning. She acknowledged that, yes, certain documents in her home were old and possibly valuable, but she flatly denied any wrongdoing or hidden agenda. "I collect stuff, all right? Some folks collect baseball cards. I pick up pieces of Hollywood history."
So if she's singing, at least a little respect so that knowledge you can see her, she can see you too.
She said with a wry smile, momentarily easing the tension in the studio. Yet her tone shifted when pressed about the secret room and the locked metal crate. She insisted she had no recollection of acquiring such a container and suggested it might have been left behind by a previous property owner. If the FBI discovered something in there worth investigating, that's their right, she added, but it doesn't belong to me. Those lines, while confident, did little to quell curiosity. After the show, tabloids spun her denial as either naive ignorance or a cunning deflection. Public debate flared anew. Some supported her wholeheartedly. She's a legend. There's no way she'd be tangled in shady dealings. Others scoffed. Of course she's claiming innocence. What else can she do? Within Hollywood itself, the response was even more fractious. Directors who had worked with her in the past expressed cautious support, but refrained from in-depth comments. Studio execs, facing scandal-phobic board members, instructed PR teams to keep references to Whoopi out of press releases. Meanwhile, activist groups that once championed her outspokenness hesitated, wary of being caught in potential fallout if the FBI uncovered something truly alarming. Behind closed doors, the FBI pored over the items retrieved from Whoopi's estate. Among them were letters referencing a film producer from the 1970s named Howard L. Emerson, a man rumored to have vanished under suspicious circumstances. One excerpt from Whoopi's own handwriting read, "They won't find anything if we just keep quiet." The scrawl was dated many years ago. If it was really hers, what did it mean? And more importantly, how did her mild collector's curiosity lead her to an individual with such a clandestine reputation? Then there was the VHS tape. From the outside, it looked generic, just an old, black cassette with a peeling label that bore only the words "Do Not." Some speculated it contained lost footage or illicit content that someone in power once wanted suppressed.
Laura Trump is sticking with us on this particular issue. Let's get your initial reaction. I know Whoopi. I'll go to my points in a second. I want to get your initial reaction, Laura.
Others wondered if it documented a behind-the-scenes scandal involving big-name celebrities. The FBI lab worked to restore the aging tape, but official findings remained under wraps. Analysts understood that if it captured even a fragment of something criminal or highly sensitive, the story could escalate beyond anyone's imagination. Uncertainty hovered like a storm cloud over everything. Media outlets reran clips of Whoopi's earlier controversies, fueling narratives that she was prone to stepping over lines. Detractors saw the moment as poetic justice. Fans, on the other hand, defended her passionately, accusing authorities of orchestrating a smear campaign to silence a woman known for unabashedly sharing her views. Through all this, Whoopi refused to disappear. She continued co-hosting, albeit with a discernible edge in her normally affable demeanor. Whenever a co-host alluded to recent difficulties, she changed the subject swiftly, forging ahead with topics unrelated to her personal predicament. Her defiance was evident, but so was her exhaustion. Whispers circulated among staff at the show that lawyers were in and out of her dressing room. Contracts for future engagements reportedly included special clauses allowing sponsors to back out should new revelations harm their brands. Paparazzi outside her mansion grew in number, jockeying for shots of any official entering or leaving the property. Helicopters buzzed overhead occasionally, capturing aerial footage of the rose garden and terrace, as if searching for another clandestine hideaway. Headlines repeated the same question: what is the FBI's endgame? The agency, for its part, remained silent, fueling a cycle of speculation that kept news outlets spinning fresh angles every day. Weeks turned into a blur of conflicting reports. One suggested the raid had been triggered by an anonymous tipster. Another claimed the FBI was investigating her ties to hush money allegations from a decades-old scandal. Even more bizarre speculation included talk of top-secret historical artifacts. Each angle found its believers. The only constant was the hush from official channels. Finally, in a twist that electrified the press, Whoopi herself hinted in a second public appearance that the entire fiasco might be linked to a powerful, unnamed figure who held grudges against her for asking too many questions about old Hollywood secrets.
You little snowflake. It's not for the reason you think. He said nobody wanted me. Honey.
We want you, Whoopi.
Well, you know what? It wouldn't matter if no one here wanted me. Thank you.
She refused to specify names or say precisely what those secrets entail. But her cryptic remarks, "Sometimes the past finds ways to speak, even when it was supposed to be buried," unleashed a barrage of guesses about every major scandal in entertainment history. The idea that she'd pried into something bigger than herself had people's imaginations in overdrive. Entertainment columnists seized on every stray rumor. If a missing starlet from 1950s Hollywood had left behind diaries implicating famous producers, they tied it to Whoopi. If a historical figure with murky political connections once used a hush fund, they tied it to Whoopi. Gradually, the real story became so entangled in apocryphal gossip that separating fact from fiction felt near impossible. Media consumers found themselves lured by daily updates, seeking the single piece of evidence that would crack the story open. Meanwhile, the FBI moved methodically, analyzing reams of documents that included old memos, personal letters, half-finished scripts, and that mystery VHS. Even if none of it directly incriminated Whoopi, the potential for it to incriminate someone else was enormous. Could she have unwittingly held the last puzzle piece in a decades-long saga involving high-powered Hollywood elites? As the rumor mill churned, the real-life repercussions for Whoopi were brutal. One by one, sponsors withdrew from her upcoming projects. A documentary that she had passionately spearheaded lost major investors. Former colleagues canceled appearances together to avoid press ambushes. And though ratings for The View initially spiked from the scandal, advertisers began hesitating, waiting for the FBI's final word before renewing deals. For Whoopi, nights grew long and restless. She confided to a close friend that she felt trapped in a house she once loved. Each knock on the door set her on edge, stirring flashbacks of the raid. Her phone rang endlessly with well-wishers, legal advisors, and critics alike, each conversation adding to her emotional burden. Yet she remained resolute. She had no intention of folding under the weight of public suspicion.
But I know where I'm going to be because I got a contract, so I'm going to be here where I'm wanted for the next couple of years.
Eventually, a pattern emerged in the media coverage, a heavy emphasis on what's next. People sensed that the real bombshell hadn't dropped yet. Despite the swirl of speculation, no formal charges had been filed, and no official statement explained the bizarre details of the search. It was as though everyone was holding their breath, waiting for a grand revelation. The tension mirrored that of an unfinished story, with each day bringing the possibility of a final, definitive twist. In an effort to reclaim some narrative control, Whoopi sat down for a lengthy interview with a reputable investigative journalist. This time, her tone was more resolute. She insisted she had always valued transparency and had never participated in a cover-up. "If I kept anything hidden," she said, "it was only because I found it fascinating, pieces of history that no one else seemed to care about. If the FBI discovered something else, that's on them to explain." She spoke passionately about free speech, about the importance of preserving stories from Hollywood's underbelly, and about her own love for collecting curious artifacts. Yet her defense still left room for the question haunting everyone. If her secret chamber truly contained only interesting trinkets, then why were the feds risking their reputation on a dawn raid? The journalist gently pushed her about the possibility that someone had used her passion for collecting to stash evidence, never letting her in on the real story. Whoopi paused, eyes distant. "If that's the case," she finally answered, "it's the cruelest trick anyone's played on me, because I had no idea." Her words carried a pang of betrayal, and for a fleeting moment, viewers saw her vulnerability beneath the unflappable public persona. Public sentiment began to shift. A new wave of sympathy rose, with people questioning whether she'd been exploited as a safekeeper for hidden relics tied to a scandal she knew nothing about. Some of Hollywood's more adventurous voices spoke up to defend her outright. Independent filmmakers and certain up-and-coming actors posted supportive messages online, praising her resilience and urging fans to remember her decades of iconic performances and activism. Then, just when it seemed the narrative might tilt back in her favor, another leak cracked open the story once more. Word got out that the contents of the mysterious VHS tape were potentially explosive.
You should be angry. And, I will say this, and I think it'll surprise people, the fact that his bond...
Hold on.
That's when the EGOT winner caught an audience member recording the show, so she took action to stop it.
An unverified snippet claimed the tape might involve powerful figures in compromising situations, possibly explaining the frantic efforts to keep it under wraps. Once again, Whoopi's name was dragged through the headlines, this time overshadowed by even more dramatic allegations about hush money, blacklisting, and a labyrinth of backroom deals spanning multiple eras of Hollywood. If the rumored footage was genuine, it could be the missing puzzle piece. It might validate everything the FBI suspected, or completely exonerate Whoopi by spotlighting someone else's guilt. Regardless, anticipation soared, and the script for this modern-day thriller felt as though it had entered its climactic act. Amid the swirling theories, a heavy question loomed: would the public ever actually see that tape? Law enforcement rarely discloses sensitive evidence unless it directly pertains to criminal charges. So unless or until the FBI publicly filed charges against Whoopi or another party, it might remain buried in some vault, ironically much like how it was buried in her house. Toward the end of this fraught chapter, Whoopi made one more statement on The View, her final word for the time being. "No matter what anyone says, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. The truth will come out, and I trust it'll show I had no part in anything shady." Her eyes held the camera in a steady gaze, as if daring any unseen adversaries to keep pushing. The in-studio applause was loud, but her face revealed exhaustion and the intangible weight of the unknown. So this is where we stand. A dawn raid by federal agents. a locked crate in a hidden cellar, an aging VHS tape labeled with ominous warnings, cryptic letters referencing events from a bygone Hollywood, sponsors withdrawing, projects on pause, a legacy in limbo, fans torn between steadfast loyalty and the uneasy suspicion that more secrets lurk in the shadows. And above all, a prolonged hush from a very agency that kicked off this spectacle, leaving the public to fill the vacuum of information with every manner of speculation. In a place like Hollywood, where legends are born and illusions thrive, truth can be elusive. Sometimes it hides in dusty vaults, behind false walls, or in bits of lost footage. Perhaps that's what keeps everyone riveted, waiting for the final unmasking of either a grand conspiracy or an unfortunate mix-up. Either outcome promises to rewrite how we see Whoopi Goldberg. For now, the story remains an unfinished puzzle, full of unanswered questions, half-revealed secrets, and an undercurrent of tension that feels far from resolution. No matter what tomorrow's headlines bring, one point is clear. The walls of Whoopi Goldberg's mansion hold more than memories and movie memorabilia. They guard a mystery, and until the FBI breaks its silence or new evidence emerges, the world can only watch, speculate, and wonder if one of Hollywood's most respected entertainers might be standing at the center of a revelation that could change everything we thought we knew.